of our great party, the Director of Communication, Honorable Boadu Asamoah, Deputy Director of Communication, Nanaya, Deputy Director of Communication, Yapreko, the staff from the headquarters, communicators from the region. We bring to you good tidings from the headquarters of our party. This is the first in the series of a lot of strengthening and training programs that our communication team is going to have from the headquarters, from the regional party, and from you. The New Patriotic Party is in its 5th year in government. And if you consider the achievements so far, you may think that we've been in power for so long a time. It is because we've done a lot within this short time. Sometimes it is even difficult to lay your hands on what to project as a party and as a government. It is because of that a lot of our teaming supporters feel that the communication of our party and government is not that strong, because they feel that a lot has been done, and as a result, we must not even hear the NDC speaking. As for NDC speaking, I'm sorry, they will continue to speak. Because even if they have nothing to speak about, they can also speak about nothing. So it is not surprising. In opposition, they still have to say something. Because can you imagine a vice president of this republic within 4 years or 5 years holding a press conference, cataloging a lot of innovation that has been brought to the governance of this country within just 5 years? So they will say something. But the difference is very clear. It is important that we strengthen you. It is important that we make sure that you also have the facts. And that is exactly the reason for this series of training that we are going to embark on. Because it will be difficult for you to counter most of the misinformation if you don't have the facts. Yesterday, for instance, I saw this prophet Pambu or something, even singing about the fact that if he manages to send money to the parent has to be taxed. And that, in his view, it is something that is not good for this country. Clearly, he didn't even understand what we are talking about. This yield levy that we've brought is a levy that it is only the sender that's going to be levied 1.75% of the amount if it is more than 100 cedis per day. So the receiver, unlike the charges that is there already, where when you are sending you pay 1%, the receiver also pays 1%. On this one, the receiver pays nothing. It is only the sender that pays 1.75 of the amount sent. So you can see how, if we are not very careful, and if we are not able as communicators to communicate what the position of government is, people of high level, I consider him as somebody who should know. But I can clearly see that on the day that the budget was read, normally, I don't know where his congregation is. Normally, it's between him and one of his pastors. They was asking the pastor, what was in the budget? I was, yes, I feel kasa, you bet your tax. I say, hey, your tax. You understand? So it is important that we keep abreast with what government is doing, and by so doing, we'll be able to explain for the people of this country to be with us. Because we believe strongly that instead of putting levies on petroleum products that really have far-reaching consequences to general prices of goods and services, and the effects on the disposable income of our people is a bit higher and steeper than looking at an innovative ways of raising funds for development of our country. Everywhere we go in this country, there's this complaint about roads that are not good, even though in our 5 years, we've done more roads than any political party or any government in Ghana within the 5 years. But it is still not enough, because there are a lot of demands for accessible roads in our various areas that we visit. So a chunk of this money, and if you are bringing in innovation, particularly with regards to taxes, everybody will complain. Just like we're bringing the top tax. The NDC went on demonstration, thinking that when they come, they will remove the top tax. They rather increase the top tax. And as we speak now, you and I cannot really feel that we are paying any top tax. At the beginning, challenges will come. At the beginning, people will complain. But I know that just as when MTN and other service providers were taking back-to-back 1%, they didn't consult us. We didn't even complain. So with time, and more so when the people of this country are going to see exactly what we are going to use the money for. You can see increased attention to our roads, increased attention to a lot of things, and going forward, we are going to even make sure that monies used for the construction of specific roads coming out of the levy will clearly be labeled, just as we did for the HIPIC funds and the use of the HIPIC funds. So it is important that as communicators of our party, we just get to know what exactly it is. This budget, for instance, was not only looking at raising funds for the running of the country, we were also looking at how best can we strengthen our local industries, Ghanaian business people, for them to be able to stand on their feet. Because they are unable to compete with businesses coming from outside because of simple reasons. One, technology. Two, we have cheap credit from outside. We have more efficient and effective labor, which is cheaper than the labor here. So it becomes very, very difficult for our local business people to be able to compete with businesses coming from outside. If you remember, in 2017, we decided that we introduce what we call benchmark values and reduce those values by 50% in order to lessen the burden of the Ghanaian people. And we expected that we'll have gotten cheaper prices. Some of the prices came down, but not appreciably to our expectation. We believe that there's the need for us to protect our local industries. As a result, what government has decided to do was to select 32 products that we are capable of producing in this country and have the possibility of getting foreign investors to also invest in the production of these 32 products. And we've decided that we are scrapping the benchmark values for them in order for us to be able to strengthen our local industries, because it is not on for us to be importing water, importing poultry products and all that. So it is important that we take note of that. We also realize that of late, the wearing of textile products is fanciful, and it's catching on very well. But sometimes it's very expensive because of taxes on it and all that. Government has decided that it is going to exempt companies that are engaged in production of textile products for 2 good years. And that is going to help in making sure that our textile products or textile industries are on course. There are other areas that government is also looking at. For instance, when we talk, most of these developed countries depend on property rates for raising money for their local MMDAs and the national kitty. In our case, it is not like that. In our case, most of the areas, if you take into consideration property rates as a total, we are not getting more than 70 million from it. And from what Baumia has done over the period, the government has done over the period by making sure that we've given addresses to almost all properties in this country, it is easy to put together a program, a national program that can give a common platform to all properties in this country, and we'll be able to value it and use it as a basis to charge property rates. And I believe strongly that if it is done and done properly, local assemblies who are unable to raise resources from property rates are going to even get 20 times more than what they are getting. So this year, we are going to look at that as well. I think with the removal of road tolls, it's clear. As I was coming, I saw, and I believe strongly that it's something that we felt that it was impeding traffic. It is causing a lot of challenges on our roads, destroying the roads, because roads are not meant for cars to be stopping very often as it does. So most road towards where we have the tolls are almost deteriorating almost all the time. And people pay toll and see that the roads are not good. Even at the point that we are paying the toll, government decided that, and even not just government, transporters made presentations to government that we should remove even the road tolls and add it a levy to the petroleum products. We felt that it was unnecessary for us to add on to the prices of petroleum products, because petroleum products are even higher already because of COVID and because of other things. So we decided to accede to their request by removing road tolls on public roads, because it is possible that individuals will be able to build roads and they will decide to toll it. As for that one, it's a private road. It has nothing to do with government and all that. So it is important that we take note of that. As we do that, we recognize that a lot of the workers who work at these toll booths, close to 282 of them are people with disabilities. And government is doing needs assessment, looking at their backgrounds and all that. They will obviously be absorbed by government and continue to be paid. We are not going to leave them to their fate. We'll make sure that we'll be able to take care of their needs. Government also felt that gold revenue for the year was dwindling as a result of withholding tax of 3% that government has put on the export of raw gold. In fact, it is because we don't prepare accounts, we don't have financial statement of these exporters. If not, everybody who does any job with government pay withholding tax, sometimes 7.5% and all that. But for this group of people, they won't even prepare accounts. So obviously, if you take them 3%, they won't come back, because taking the 3% is just a tax credit for them. But if you take into consideration the gold industry, their profit margin by selling the raw gold is not more than 2%. So as a result of that, they were smuggling either through Togo or Cote d'Ivoire. Government have decided that we are removing the 3% withholding tax to 1.5%. And even that, there were a few complaints. They felt that we could have even gone further to 1%. As for this one, it is still under discussion, and government is open to receive them for further discussion. I think that it is important to note, most often our colleagues from the NDC will say, oh, we've borrowed 300 and something thousand or 341 billion. That is the debt stock as we speak now. The fact of the matter is that in all the arguments with debt, if you want to use nominal figures, our situation is far better than when the NDC was there. If you want to use debt to GDP ratio, our situation is far better. If you want to even discount it to dollar terms, our situation is far better. Because before we were leaving power in 2009, the total debt stock was 9 billion Ghana cedis. At that time, the cedi was even stronger than the dollar. So the total debt stock then was $9 billion. By the time the NDC was leaving in 2016, 9 billion Ghana cedi total debt had increased to over 120 billion Ghana cedis. So if you are checking the percentage, over 1,500% within 8 years. Over 1,500%. As we speak now, and at that time when we were living, debt to GDP ratio was around 27%. By the time they were leaving, debt to GDP ratio had increased to over 72% in the year 2017. When we took over in 2017, we did what we call smart borrowing and debt rationalization by buying off expensive debt with cheaper debt stock. By 2019, our debt to GDP ratio had reduced from 72% to 68% in 2019. Unfortunately, we were hit by COVID in 2020. And if you check, in almost all countries, between 2019 and 2020, some of them had increased their debt stock by 20%. Some of them have increased their debt stock by 15%. If you check, it is only Ghana that our debt stock had not increased by double digits. So as we speak now, our debt stock as a percentage of GDP is 76%. And it is clear because in 2020 alone, because of COVID, we incurred costs that we were normally not going to incur. Expenditure on COVID-related items was close to 14 billion Ghana cedis. Revenues that we were expecting from import and export because there were lockdowns throughout the country, throughout the world, and all that, was around 11.9 billion. The combined effect is around 25 billion Ghana cedis in 2020 alone. And this one is just in reference to central government expenditure on COVID. Departments and agencies is not part of it. You also recall that it is around that time that we're doing financial sector rationalization. When the NDC had sat down for our banking system to almost at the verge of collapse. We spent close to 25 billion Ghana cedis to make sure that we are able to keep people in jobs and also protect the resources of people at our various banks. If the government had not taken such a decision, now by now, and we're lucky we came back to power. Because you realize the Ponzi schemes that were around, the DKMs, all those Ponzi schemes. And the NDC was not prepared to do anything about it. We came in and stopped it and make sure that our financial sector is strengthened. As we speak now, the required liquidity that they need for their activities is protected as a result of that forward-looking decision that we took. So you can clearly see that if you are talking about debt, and sometimes they will be talking about you've borrowed so much and there's nothing to show. If you go through all the things that we've done, a decision to make sure that all secondary school going children in this country is made free. It's not a cheap decision. To the extent that for the NDC, they didn't even understand. They felt that it is not possible for a country like Ghana. And I agree with them, because when they were in government, they decided to use those resources to engage in guinea fowl rearing. And at the end of the day, nobody saw any guinea fowl around. They decided to invest those monies in individuals, said that if we had not come to power as a government, by now you will still be having a Gambiri RLG company. One single project, mobile money interoperability, through a company that bidded for the contract. And there was no bidding, it was just sole contract that was given to him. It was going to cost the people of this country over $1.2 billion for just mobile money interoperability system. We used less than $5 million to get it going. Less than $5 million. So you can see the difference, massive difference. That's why they were going to build Hope City. Because if a contractor you can use just $5 million to execute, is going for $1.2 billion. Why won't you be able to build Hope City? Why won't you be able to build Hope City? It is important we also note that we will still continue to build on our flagship programs. So all our flagship programs is still ongoing, the free SHS, the SDIs programs, the 1D, 1F. So far, as we speak now, we've built and resourced over 120 factories. Assuming the NDC was able to build even 20 within 4 years, we wouldn't have been where we are as we speak now. So all our 1D1 flagship programs are also ongoing. We are also bringing in other innovations in order to encourage our youth to be involved in entrepreneurial spirits and entrepreneurial ideas. So we are bringing what we call the Youth Start program. That government initially is going to put in it over 1 billion Ghana cedis, possibility of raising additional $500 million as part of the program will also be done. Those projects will be managed by GA and NEP. Youthful people who want to engage in any entrepreneurial projects will be taken through training for a period of time. Then after their training, they will be resourced, they will be given capital for them to be able to set up their own businesses. And we expect that within 3 years, we'll be able to create over 1 million jobs within 3 years. Just as I told you, our flagship programs is still ongoing. As a result, you all remember that a month ago, the contract for NAPCO trainees came to an end. And when it came out for discussion, President realized that no, There's no way we are going to let over 68,000 of our youthful people to go back on the streets. They were on the streets because when the NDC was in power, because of their credibility in terms of policy making, they went back to IMF, and as a result, all kinds of restrictions was put on their programs, including employment freeze. So for years, children coming out of school, particularly at tertiary level, were not getting employment. We came in, took a very proactive and courageous decision by establishing the NAPCO. Straight away picked over 100,000. For the 3 years, they've been able to place a lot of them in the permanent jobs. So as we speak now, we only have about 68,000 of them still on the NAPCO project. Government is keeping all of them till the end of the year. Thankfully, by the beginning of the year, the Ministry of Communication is also going to embark on a new project that is going to train our youthful people in telecommunication and communication skills. And at the end of that training, about 50,000 of them will get permanent jobs. So out of the 68,000, by January, about 50,000 of them will just get off the NAPCO program. It gives government opportunity to also re-engage and re-recruit over 100,000 people again on the NAPCO project. And as we proceed with the Youth Start, as and when they graduate from the Youth Start program, we pick other ones. It's not going to be static where people get out of it and it will not be replaced. So that's exactly what government is going to do to make sure that all our youthful people who are ready to work and are ready to engage in entrepreneurial agenda will be helped by government in order to ensure that this country is developed together. This is your government. This is New Patriotic Party's government. There's no party in this country that can match us in terms of achievement, in terms of projects, in terms of making sure that the economy is strong and resilient. No party ever. So as communicators, I can understand it's not all of you who may be strong in economics, but you may be strong in other areas. At least we used to have women's organizers in this country who felt that the CD was depreciating because some witchcrafts were stealing the money at the Bank of Ghana. We used to even have PhD holders when we were introducing the drone system, felt that we are going to use the drone to be watching women bathing. At least they were communicating on behalf of the NDC. I think that for you in the New Patriotic Party, your level is much, much, much higher than our opponents who think that nothing is possible. In their mind, everything is impossible. So we are starting this project. The media, this is the beginning of a project of sensitizing our communicators and strengthening them, and not just that, resource them enough for them to be able to continue to speak on behalf of the party and be able to engage. Well, we are not only looking at just media and radio and TV communication. We are looking at, that's why we have here constituency communication officers. Are you all here with us? Because the real communication is on the ground. So we expect that the constituency communication officers, having gotten the skills and the resources and the motivation, will help in also pushing the agenda on the ground in order to ensure that the good work that the central government is doing, the good work that the regional government is doing, the good work that metropolitan districts and municipal assembly is doing, get down to the people. On this note, I want to thank you, the media, for coming, and I believe that as we move on, you'll be able to get in touch with our regional party secretariat, to get in touch with our communication officers, and you are going to see that our communication in the central region has been reinvigorated as a result of these intermittent and regular information and training